What is the most regrettable sex you've had? That wasn't my mum. Serious, NSFW. A guy I had been drunkenly hooking up with. Except this time he was completely wasted. The whole time just kept talking about how he wanted to duck all these other girls and kept bugging me to call a friend over to have a threesome. I was so turned off I stopped in the middle of it and left. Hands down my most regretted sex yet. The neighbor's wife. Caused 2 divorces on that street. I ended up bringing a girl home. One night stand. So we start. End up she's on her period. I decide to go for it anyways because there is a naked girl in my bed. Did not realize how much of a mess was going to be made. Had trouble keeping it up because everything was covered in blood. Everything. Kept going soft every time I looked down at the mess. And realized I was covered in blood. She was. The whole bed. And everything we touched. My bathroom was then covered in blood. Very awkward trying to play off not staying hard. I got to a good rhythm and just finished for the sake of it to be done with. Actually finished but had to have a few showers and throw out my sheets and towels. I'm gay so prepare yourself. The first D that I took was huge. Like monster can size. I started to suck it but my teeth wouldn't stop touching his shaft. It seemed like he didn't mind. So I just rolled with it. Then he started to force deep throat me onto it until I gagged. When he wanted to penetrate me he didn't prep at all. No fingering. No stretching, nothing. The worst part? He used lotion as lube. The only thing I could bear was his tip. And even that made me limp around for 3 days. I should have mentioned that I told him to stop after this and pull out. I guess I have to be somewhat grateful that he didn't abuse me as he had all the strength to take advantage of me. TLDR. Make sure he plays with your ass beforehand, gay guys. Edit. I should have mentioned that I'm naturally submissive so I was kinda into it. Don't worry about if it was rape. It was consensual. Until the last part. Edit 2. My Reddit gold virginity got taken. Which is nice. Alright. I'll post again. My now ex-girlfriend wanted to have a threesome with one of her best childhood friends and I. Her friend is frigging smoking hot. We book a room at a hotel for the hell of it and arrange to meet after we were all done with work and school. At about 5 PM. Rush hour. So me and her friend arrive at the place around the same time. And I get a text from my ex saying she's stuck in traffic. I couldn't help myself. And long story short, she walked in on me banging her friend against the wall. Needless to say we broke up that night. And I ruined their friendship. I basically took one of the best situations a man can be in and ducked it up. TLDR. Fought with the head that didn't have a brain and ducked everything up. Edit. Thank you for my first gold kind redditor. At some point in my relationship I impregnated my girlfriend. It's not the fact that she got pregnant. I couldn't love our child more. The 9 months I spent with her were the best of my life. The reason I partly regret it was because she died in childbirth. This was 4 years ago and I cannot love our child more. But I still can't wonder what life would be like if she didn't become pregnant. Had a threesome with my buddy and his girlfriend. I was drunk as duck. And she was hot. Ate her out while she sucked his D. And ducked her. Immediately after I finished I went and chilled on the couch. It went from fun to super awkward in 4.2 seconds. Regret it because he is not with her anymore and we're not friends. When I meet my wife he demanded a go at her. No. Before you ask. No sword touching. And no Eiffel Tower. I kept sleeping with my ex for almost a year after our divorce. Because both of us were too afraid to try to find someone else. Being late 40s single sucks. We continued fighting just as we had before the divorce and their sex was never as good as it had been when we liked each other. It prevented us from healing ourselves for a long time. I'm really just getting over that now. Almost 3 years after our divorce. I spent a year in New Zealand on my own, working and living away from home. I worked in a restaurant and there was this girl, a 4 maybe in looks, less in personality. I disliked her a lot. Anyway, one night I was out after work and she keeps trying to put the moves on me, but I'm really not interested. She's really persistent though the whole night, and eventually I got really drunk and stopped caring. Went to hers, had pretty or foul sex, and I bolted home in the morning. After that, she got really bitter and cold towards me, probably because I didn't want to see her again. and made work absolute hell. I'm talking refusing to do anything that would in some way help me serve. It was horrible, and I wish I could go back and stop myself. TLDR. Don't screw the crew. My first time is probably my biggest regret. Had a mutual attraction with this girl, but she had a boyfriend and I refused, and still do, to be a homewrecker. Eventually they broke up and she called me up for a booty call. We did the deed and afterwards talked about how she didn't want anything serious and I was fine with that. We laid ground rules. She didn't want me to go around bragging about it and I asked her to not hook up with a friend of mine. I had a lot of weird insecurities around him and women. Long story. Needless to say, a week later she went on a date with him and they ended up dating for over a year. It was not a fun time for me. TL. Doctor never, under any circumstance, tell a girl that there is a guy she can't sleep with. I used to hook up with this guy when I was a freshman in college. I had admired him for a while and thought he was just the most attractive man I had ever seen. I knew he had a girlfriend at another school, but I figured I didn't owe anything to her since I had never met her and that it was his problem. We hooked up dozens of times. My morals have since changed and I feel really bad about it, especially now that I have a boyfriend who I really care about. Being cheated on probably sucks and I'm so sorry for that girl. I'm a gay college student. I've had sex with 2 freshmen who then later realized they are straight. The first one, the day after, asked to talk and got into some heavy it about past sexual abuse driving his decisions. The second one, who I really liked, came over to my place and cried for 3 hours about his family life when he told me. My friends that know about the incidents make a lot of obligatory jokes about how bad I must be at sex, but in reality the events bummed me out a lot. That's why I now have a no freshman rule. Late to the party but ducked. This is a good story. I was with my college girlfriend at the time and we were throwing a party. We headed over to the beach a few blocks from my house for a little alone time because it was a small house and people were in our room hanging out. We get there, she tells me she has her period. I decide it's no big deal because I am horny and drunk. We go at it and head back to the house. She stops outside for a smoke or something and I go back in alone. I am clueless that I'm completely covered in blood. My white shirt had handprint smears. My face had blood on it. My hands were bloody the works and my girlfriend is nowhere to be seen. After some major WTF looks from my friends, my girlfriend comes in. I go clean up completely embarrassed and no longer under the suspicion of murder. That is my story of how I earned my red wings. At the time I regretted it due to the embarrassment, but now I mostly think it's a funny story. Still, it is the only time I've regretted sex, even if it was only for the moment. I got squirted on by a plump girl that I knew for maybe 20 minutes. It was on my buddy's mattress and the sheer volume of liquid led to him having to throw away some sheets and flip the bed over. I ended up with a hickey that was so grotesquely large that everyone assumed Brock Lesnar throat punched me. I got it right before I started a human sexuality course. I had to walk around with a shirt on to hide the bite marks covering my torso. She drew blood on one of my nipples and left my back looking like a puma dug into me. Let's just say I never drink absinthe or tequila anymore, as it kind of clouds my judgment. I'm still not sure what is worse, the act itself or the aftermath. With a virgin Mormon, I felt disgusting afterwards because he was so innocent and clueless at the same time. Almost like I was a pedophile. He just lay there underneath me with his pupils blown like he'd just seen Joseph Smith's golden tablets, or whatever the hell they were. I was on top for over an hour. He didn't finish. I gave up. Drunk. Awkward sex with a friend that ended up kinda killing the friendship. Not worth it. This is easily my most regrettable incident. The second time I had sex was with a close male friend of mine. He pressured me into it really badly, in that way that high school boys do so well. We'd hooked up in the past, hand job, fingering, oral, and he made me feel like I owed it to him. I remember him saying we have both only had sex once so we should do it together, or some crap. For some reason I didn't really feel like I could say no. We had sex at his house and it didn't really go for that long. He didn't finish. I didn't come. As soon as it stopped I got dressed and left. There was no pleasure during and I honestly started to regret my decision midway through sex. I started crying at the bus stop and began to realize what a duck up that was. I am still stunned at my own subservience. I guess I found it really hard to say no to men. I was even more upset when I later found out that he had used similar lies to sleep with my other friends. So basically he played us all. Attention, please keep in mind that the OP of this thread has chosen to mark this post with the serious replies only tag. Therefore any replies that are jokes, puns, off topic, or are otherwise non-contributory will be removed. If you see others posting comments that violate this tag, please report them to the mods. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot. Our auto moderator comments Q11 per what is auto moderator. This action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit. Message composed to equals %2fr%2f ask Reddit if you have any questions or concerns. I was definitely someone's worst. I found out my girlfriend had been sleeping with this other dude who ran in our circle. Today they are married. I broke up with her. And because I was super butthurt, I went drinking and brought home, actually, parents' house, a slam piece. So we're in my room, making out and being loud and drunk, when my sister starts pounding on the wall from bedroom next to mine. I ignore her. She then bursts into my room, crying hysterically. She thinks I'm cheating, telling me to go to bed. I'm belligerent at this point, so I start freaking over her cock-blocking intrusion. She eventually leaves and the girl and I start making out again. As we're kissing I start to puke all over her and the carpeted floor. My mom then comes into the room. The girl is hiding under the sheets at this point but her feet are sticking out. My mom sees and asks, and I quote, "Who's a hussy?" I hear the girl sigh with regret as she sticks a hand out and waves. Mom leaves. I beg the girl to stay and keep going. She does. We have the worst awkward sex. Condom keeps falling off because of my whiskey D. I pass out. Kim, if you're reading this, I'm so sorry. I dropped 3 hits of acid. Ended up in the shower with 2 very attractive girls. A bottle of Hershey's syrup and can of whipped cream. I didn't give a damn about anything other than the wallpaper and shower curtain. I've never been so upset with drugs before. I once reluctantly went on a date with this aging hipster who looked and sounded a little too much like Kit from Napoleon Dynamite. After having a lot to drink, also being freshly heartbroken and very lonely at the time, I convinced myself that he was a nice funny enough guy, and maybe he'd be good enough in bed for me to overlook the fact that I just couldn't make myself attracted to him. He put on this weird, sad robot music, turned on a red light bulb and then proceeded to slobber all over me while trying to duck me to the beat of the song. I could tell by the look on his face that he thought it was super hot, but it wasn't. It was terrible. It was like a bad acid trip. I remember looking up at him on top of me and just wishing I could disappear forever. I'm a gay man who was so closeted and afraid of what others would think that I convinced myself that I should sleep with a woman before I ever tried anything with a man. I end up getting really drunk at a party and hitting on the hottest girl there. She ends up being interested, so I figure now is as good a time as any to lose my virginity. I manage to get hard enough for a condom and give it a go. Lose interest 5 minutes and blame it on being drunk. A month later I have genital warts. TL. DR. Duck people's expectations. Be who you are. My ex-girlfriend. For 4.5 years. I didn't realize until I had sex with someone else, my current girlfriend, how teeth sex was. She was my first, and I had zero sexual experience. 19 years old. Never even masturbated before her. With that said, I didn't know what to expect from sex or how sex should be. At the beginning of our relationship, sexual arousal for me was quick, embarrassing, and unenjoyable for both of us. Once I started building stamina I realized my girlfriend was sexually selfish, and sex stopped after she finished. She orgasmed and became genitally sensitive, and lost interest completely regardless of if I orgasmed. She was very reserved and vanilla, which I chalked up to her being a virgin as well. But sex over the course of our relationship became less about the intimate connection than it was just purely about getting there. It wasn't fun. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't sensual. Ducking her became a chore. I was a guitar player singer in a dance band at a place that was jumping 5 nights a week. I was fairly good looking. Long hair. There was this girl who would come in with her friend every weekend and I would talk with her as I mingled with the crowd on breaks. She was quiet and shy and let me know over the course of months that she wanted to have a sex with me. I thought she was attractive, but I told her I didn't really do one night stands, which I didn't. So she persisted and asked, and finally I said, okay, what the hell. So she came to my apartment. We got undressed in the dark. I put on a condom and then, for about 5 minutes, we proceeded to have a sexual intercourse. At least, I think we did. She never moved. Not once. Not a finger. She made no sounds. I thought, at one point she may have stopped breathing. It felt like necrophilia. Then she said, if we were dating, it would get better. So this wasn't regrettable, but it would definitely fit into most people's categories as such. I'm a man. Heterosexual. My friend's girlfriend always had an affinity towards my scars. Used to be a cutter years ago. Tons of scars on my forearms, upper arms, chest etc. I barely notice them these days. She loved them and commented on them on enough occasion for me to notice. Well, when we hooked up, mid-skeletus, she pulled out this diver's knife and rubbed it on my chest. Instantly, I was not okay with it. I turned the tables, as I figured she might want. Without skipping a beat, I immediately pulled it from her hands. I started rubbing the back of the blade on her neck, and she loved it. I didn't get pleasure from this specifically, but it did freak me out for a second. I won't go into detail further, but we did end up doing even weirder it. But this is the most surprising sexual encounter I've found myself in. She was turned on by cannibalism, so I was not too surprised after it was said and done. But, goddamn woman. When I was 15 I got 3 awful hand jobs in the girls' bathroom at my high school. Later that year I awkwardly fingered a girl for a few minutes in the same bathroom. Took a girl home and went down on her gladly until she came. She lay there, enjoying her post-orgasmic bliss, oblivious to me. I kept hinting and she wasn't picking up on it, so I asked her nicely if she would reciprocate. She's like, I can't. Confused me totally. I'm like, what? Why not? In this perky voice she told me, I'm Catholic. We don't do that. P.S. Afterwards, I was still nice to her and even made her a killer sandwich. I mean, really killer. I was proud of that sandwich. She wouldn't say anything, so I asked her how it was. She acted like it was a weird thing to ask and said patronizingly, yep, it's a sandwich. P.P.S. My friend who lived across the hall screwed her sister the same night. The sister that I had always wanted to hook up with. He totally got the best of that deal. My husband and I had a little to drink. We weren't drunk, but we weren't exactly sober. We got into my favorite position, which is on my back with my ankles on his shoulders. He withdrew, then thrust forward, except it didn't hit the intended target. Accidental anal sex. I don't recommend it. The night my first fiancé registered signee was killed, we had sex and she wanted to go eat after, and we were in a car accident that took her and our unborn child away from me. I think that if we had gone to eat first like we planned, she would still be here. The girl faked getting pregnant to keep talking to me. Had been having sex with a much older, much heavier woman while I was a college student. Anyway, I graduate and go to a wedding a few years later. I knew it was a possibility that she would be there. Lo and behold, she was. My mom also attended this wedding. She strikes up quite a drunken friendship with this woman. Get I thammed myself and proceed to have sloppy sex with her in the back of a Suburban in the hotel parking lot, as my mom and I shared a room and my friend was already banging hers in her room. Wake up the next morning and go down to breakfast. Horrified, I see my mom and this woman sitting together chatting and laughing. I grab some food and try to act like nothing is amiss here. On the ride home my mom breaks a moment of silence by saying, Suburban. Hot. Classy. In her drunken state the night before, she had told my mom how much she liked our house. She had visited once to bang me back in the day. My mom busted my balls for the entire 2 hours trip home. Yeah, I regret having that sex. Lots of replies in this thread from men who don't seem to know what periods are. Guys, yes, women bleed. And if you go stirring tomato soup with plunger, you're going to make a mess. I ducked a jugulet. Female like fan. Once. Never again. I'm stunned by how many of these situations could have been solved by sacking up and either being honest or laughing it off. I was at a friend's family birthday party and his aunt and I got drunk and ducked in their basement. And then we cabbed back to her place and had sex again. I couldn't nut on either occasion. We roamed again in the morning and I shot a missile of jizz over her entire body, across her bed, and onto the wall. It was immediately followed by another jizzile that hit the same spot. We shagged for a year at least once a week. I regret going back for more. Had sex with my first love boyfriend the day after he broke up with me in a very obvious attempt to get him not to leave me. It didn't work obviously, but I was just so heartbroken. I just regret making myself so vulnerable and being so weak. Lost my virginity to say I had with a 3-stroke 10. She was not very nice. And smelt down there. In fact, smelt down there so bad that I could smell it before we were naked. But I still went with it. Little did I know she was starting at my school the next year. She came to school. I got mocked a lot. And she had a pregnancy scare. Everyone knew because she threw up in class. She told everyone I was small. And lasted a whole 6 seconds. Oh, high school. Anytime any female wanted to screw around in the shower. I'm 6'5". I have a hard time containing myself in the average American shower.